Welcome back, Star Wars fans. Today we're excited to take a deep dive into Disney's latest series, Skeleton Crew. An all-new story told from the perspective of 4 children, this series is a fresh take on Star Wars in a way we've never seen before. From pirate treasure on hidden planets to detonation holes to calling claimsies, the series is packed with fun and adventure. And like in our other videos, we'll be using the GAFFI score to rate Skeleton Crew. If you haven't heard about the score, be sure to check out our video that describes the score in the link in the comments below.
So let's start off by looking at the general audience scores. Over time, you can see that the 3 scores remained relatively constant. On IMDb, the series landed a 7.2 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes, the adjusted audience score was 8 out of 10. And on Metacritic, the user score was 6 out of 10. No review bombing is apparent from any of these scores. Combining the 3, the average general audience score was 7.06.
Let's now look at the fan execution score. For the top 5 moments of the series, the first is, the series is full of adventure, telling a Star Wars story from the perspective of children exploring the galaxy. Since the release of Episode 4, Star Wars A New Hope, there have been roughly 25 major cinematographic Star Wars works. While some of these have had younger characters or children star in the roles of major characters, like we saw in Rebels, Resistance, and The Bad Batch, Skeleton Crew is the first work to almost exclusively tell a Star Wars story from the viewpoint of children. Various fan-made surveys have sought to investigate the age at which Star Wars fans first watched Star Wars film. One survey reported the median age to be 6 years old, and 90% of respondents having watched their first film before the age of 13. Regardless of the exact validity of these surveys, it is not uncommon for a Star Wars fan to have their first experience cherishing the faraway galaxy from a young age, and this is the first time that we as fans get to see the experience of children who are our age growing up in that very galaxy that continues to fascinate us so much. While we agree that there was a certain level of childishness, like claimsies, it did work to provide a comic relief, and this storytelling perspective allowed viewers to see new sides of the Star Wars galaxy, including simple parts of daily lives like school, home life, and folklore. As such, I gave this aspect a rating of 8 out of 10, or very good.
I agree and also gave it 8 out of 10. The next point is, the legend of At-Aten and the jewels of the Old Republic are new and intriguing aspects of Star Wars lore. Perhaps one of the reasons Star Wars was such a success in 1977 was because it blended the future with legend. Tales of warriors called Jedi, Clone Wars, and the mysterious death of Luke's father filled the imagination with wonder. In Skeleton Crew, by introducing the legend of a mysterious treasure planet known as At-Aten, the series complements the original trilogy by expanding existing Star Wars lore in a meaningful way. At-Aten was one of 9 mysterious planets from the Old Republic era known as the Jewels of the Old Republic, planets who appear to have had tremendous influence anciently in the galaxy. And despite the claim that all of the planets except At-Aten were destroyed, we learned that At-Akron still exists, though it is war-torn and derelict. Even more interesting, it's eventually revealed that At-Aten was hidden behind a colossal barrier disguised to look like a maelstrom. These legends leave fans wondering what other bits of the galaxy are left over from the ancient era, and positively contribute to both the series and Star Wars as a whole. For this reason, I rated this point as excellent, or 10 out of 10.
And I rated it very good, or 8 out of 10. The third positive execution is new and dynamic characters such as Jod, Neil, and SM-33 are introduced. Character building has been an essential part of Star Wars since its conception. Whether it was a half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder in the form of Han Solo or queen-turned-politician-turned-warrior in Padme Amidala, we have seen numerous examples of characters that draw viewers in. Skeleton Crew introduced several new characters and species to the Star Wars galaxy that refreshed our sense of intrigue and fanship as viewers. In particular, Jod Nanawood, Neil, and SM-33 really stood out to fans. Jod Nanawood fulfilled an interesting story arc. His initial display of Force sensitivity instantly garnered the attention of viewers, especially when combined with his known pirate background. Finally, his clash of feigned kindness toward the children replaced with human greed continually left viewers wondering who he really was. Neil, revealed in an interview to be of the species Mykian, fulfills a particularly interesting role as an alien character given significant screen time. The costuming and design make him feel very believable and seamlessly inserted him in with the other children, also allowing for unique dialogue, including jokes made by the other children regarding his trunk and how he eats, for example. Finally, SM-33 may be the mutually agreed-upon favorite of the series. His quirky combination of pirate and unwavering obedience allowed for excellent dialogue and paved the way for believable situations that would be otherwise difficult to escape, like how the children would ever fly a ship by themselves. Overall, the new characters were crafted in excellent fashion, and I give this positive point a score of 8 out of 10, or very good.
I agree and rated the same as very good. Next is Jod Nanawood and the pirates portrayed give a fresh new angle on Star Wars. While pirates are definitely not new to Star Wars, Skeleton Crew examines them from a new perspective that is very meaningful. The legend of Tak Renaud as a pirate renowned throughout the galaxy for his massive wealth and whispered discovery of At-Aten expands the legacy of pirates in the galaxy like never seen before. In addition, the depiction of a pirate shadow port on Borgo Prime centralizes pirates conceptually, further developing them as a subculture within Star Wars, independent of existing crime syndicates and the Bounty Hunters Guild. What's more, SM-33's peculiar Pirates Code programming adds to this subculture, suggesting that at least some pirates utilized codes of rules in establishing order amongst themselves. Jod Nanawood, also known as Captain Silvo, is intriguing as a pirate that uses the Force in addition to charisma and charm to manipulate not only his crew, but also 4 children in hopes of discovering the ultimate pirate treasure. As a result, I rated this execution as very good, or 8 out of 10.
And I rated it a little lower as good, or 6 out of 10. The last positive execution in our top 5 is the series highlights messages of hope, friendship, and optimism in the galaxy. It's no secret that Star Wars has often had at its core a simplistic conflict of the good guys against the bad guys. The kids' dialogue throughout this series demonstrates these roots, and even the title of the last episode was The Real Good Guys. This simple view of good and bad in the galaxy is one of the reasons why Star Wars has left viewers satisfied with its wholesome approach to storytelling and entertainment. Throughout the series, we had several moments where hope and optimism were learned by the kids and even the parents too. It was satisfying for viewers to see parents and children team up to bring down the pirates and save At-Aten. And several times the kids vocalized how their experience had shaped their view of the world. For example, when Fern tells her mom, "Everywhere we went, even the worst places, there were good people too." Or when Wim explains to his dad, "There's a lot more to the galaxy than the great work. I saw places out there that made me get how good home is." Along with this came the insightful look into friendship. There are many touching moments, but to highlight a few, the very first episode began with Wim dragging Neil out of a bath for what he proclaimed could be a real adventure, no more pretend. Or the touching moment when Wim and KB have a heart-to-heart on La Nupa, as KB explains to Wim that without Fern, then I'll be back to 0 friends again, and Wim quickly responds, "That's so dumb. Anyways, you could just be friends with me and Neil." Later, when the two girls resolve their differences, KB tells Fern, "I was afraid to tell you when there are things I can't do," and Fern responds, "It's okay, you're my best friend." Through all this, Skeleton Crew re-centered its Star Wars telling story on wholesome values that added to its own value, so I rated this point 10 out of 10, or excellent.
And I rated it similarly as very good, or 8 out of 10. Let's now talk about the worst 5 moments of the series, though in truth it was challenging to come up with many. The first is, Skeleton Crew leaves key questions unanswered regarding Old Republic minting and how credits play a role in the galactic economy over time. In Star Wars, absolutely everything you need to know, we learned that the Old Republic currency was discontinued and exchanged with Imperial credits during the Age of the Empire. And after the Empire's fall, it's known in canon that the New Republic established its own unique form of currency, generally known as New Republic credits. These credits can be seen in Boba Fett's helmet after he became Crime Lord in the Book of Boba Fett. It seems nearly certain that any form of ingot credits utilized in the Old Republic would have been meaningless in the time during and after the Empire. Thus, it's unclear why Jod would believe that credits from an Old Republic mint would have any purchasing value, unless the ingots themselves were minted from a material that held intrinsic value, a fact we are not provided with in Skeleton Crew. Confusion about whether the mint contains Old Republic ingots with intrinsic value, or if the New Republic is actively using the mint to make modern credits, has left fans very confused, and is a gaping hole in the Republic's galactic economy. As a result, I've rated this execution 2 out of 10.
And I rated it 4 out of 10. The next point is, the conclusion of the series leaves several important loose ends and features unrealistic details. The final episode of the series had a lot to resolve. In the episode prior, Jod had barely completed the successful invasion of the Mint on At-Aten. Now lay before him fooling or beating the supervisor, getting his pirate ship past the barrier, ransacking the Mint, dealing with the citizens, and establishing a plan for continual abuse of an innumerable amount of credits. At the same time, for the children to come out on top, as we assumed they would, they had to stop Jod at each of these critical junctures or somehow get help from the citizens and/or outside forces, all of which seemed equally unlikely. 2 of the major solutions to allow the plot to continue came in the form of the supervisor being a fairly easily destroyed droid, and the presence of a master switch to entirely destroy the barrier, which seems unlikely to have been in existence given the goal of protecting At-Aten indefinitely. While Jod showed clear lack of emotion for bringing down an entire society's sense of order and allowing for his pirate friends to ransack the citizens without care, he managed to fail to act upon any similar feelings when it came to the children of Skeleton Crew or their parents. While the ending was filled with flashes of action and interesting sequences of dialogue, an element of sacrifice was lacking. Surely Jod, with his years of pirating and lust for cold, hard credits, would not have dealt kindly with anyone interrupting his plans. Such a sacrifice would have added to the overarching lesson of the story of good and bad, and the sacrifice that often must be made for what someone truly cares about. Perhaps even more surprisingly, though, was the rapid and unexplained ending of Jod and the pirates. Whether the pirate's deflector shield was down or angled inappropriately, one would think that a starship of that size would repel starfighters more adeptly, and the series leaves Jod's character in the supervisor tower, which does not appear to be affected by the battle, so he clearly does not die, but as to his arrest or escape we know nothing. Perhaps this will be addressed if a sequel is ever made, but overall the ending of the series left viewers wanting more in the form of explanation and more believability, and for this reason I gave this point 4 out of 10, or having a lot of a negative impact.
I agree and rated it the same. The third negative execution is the structure and function of At-Aten's society are insufficiently explained. Throughout the series, we learn bits and pieces of the structure of At-Aten. Wim's father, Wendell, is a Level 7's system coordinator. Fern's mother, Farah, is an undersecretary. Basic education includes an important test called the Career Assessment Test, which decides the career path for youths on At-Aten. And the planet is essentially ruled by a supervisor, anticlimactically revealed to be a droid, which Farah indicates was decreed by the Great Work, a program run by At-Aten's government. Despite this information, it's very unclear if those people are stuck on At-Aten just to run the Old Republic Mint, and if so, why these tasks couldn't be entirely run by droids like the supervisor itself. Forcibly keeping people on the planet also raises the question of why rebellions to leave hadn't occurred, or if perhaps people are somehow allowed to leave the planet, since Farah seems to indicate that Republic emissaries know about its existence. While not essential to the story arc, the gaps of information we have regarding At-Aten's society do raise some confusion in the series, which is why I rated it as 8 out of 10 or having a little negative impact.
I agree and also rated it 8 out of 10. The next negative point was that space battles were minimally portrayed in the series. While the opening scene of the entire series showed an involved look at the pirateering of 2 spaceships, there were minimal space battles throughout the rest of the airtime. There was a brief glimpse again in Episode 3, very interesting as an astrogation problem, when Wim and Fern get to try out starship laser cannons against the pursuing X-Wings. Finally, there is again a brief space/atmospheric battle as the X-Wings and B-Wings engage with the pirate ship. To be fair, none of these sequences was in and of itself terrible, but as implied by the name of the franchise, Star Wars, fans hope to see space and stars with sequences of action. We agree that this is definitely not a significant detriment to the series as a whole, but leaves room for improvement, and as such, I gave this point a 6 out of 10, or having some impact on the series.
I rated it similarly as 8 out of 10. The final negative execution is the military display within society on At-Akron deviated from the primary plot. After obtaining the supposed coordinates to At-Aten from Kim, the crew is surprised when they instead land on a sister planet, At-Akran. And while the planet's surface mirrors that of At-Aten, strange military conflict between 2 warring factions, the Troik and the Hatan, does not. When the youth get caught up in this war, the focus of Skeleton Crew deviates from the main plot, as Fern, KB, Wim, and Neil try to survive being forced to fight. As a whole, the episode could be considered a filler in the series. However, there were also several reviews online expressing their appreciation for the episode, as it explores themes of kindness and violence in a broken world, a concept that comes back later to show the contradiction in Jod's choices at the end of the series. As a result, I rated this execution as 8 out of 10, or a little negative impact.
And I rated it similarly, but as 6 out of 10.
Having reviewed the top 5 and worst 5 executions of the series, let's now take a look at the overarching 3 general executions: storytelling quality, character development, and continuity. For storytelling quality, Skeleton Crew does an excellent job telling the story of 4 children as they explore the galaxy. As the youth search harder and longer to find their home, the story builds on itself with the young crew discovering more about the galaxy with good pacing, as mentioned in many reviews. And as mentioned previously, the story is full of adventure, friendship, and hard work as the children fight to defend what is right, providing good climax and a satisfying ending. For these reasons, I rated storytelling quality as very satisfactory, or 10 out of 10.
and I rated it satisfactory, or 8 out of 10. The next point, character development. In the beginning, viewers are introduced to three main groups of characters that are followed throughout the story of Skeleton Crew: the pirates, the children, and the parents. The pirates, as one may expect, develop very linearly, not growing or learning, but showing more and more clearly that they embody greed, raucous demeanors, and self-interest. The children and parents show perhaps the greatest character growth, as we see both starting from either a point of little experience and a great deal of tenacity in the case of the children, or more experience but very little tenacity in the parents. As both groups go on to progress, the children seeing the world and the parents suffering the loss of their children, we see how both the children and parents mature and recognize what really matters to them, as well as where their own inability hinders them. This leads the children recognizing how good home is, and the parents realizing that they are willing to break the rules they felt so loyal to in order to save their children. Finally, Jod plays a very dynamic role as he fluctuates between helping the children and pursuing his own interests. While ultimately he seems to play the part of the pirate, he leaves viewers continually wondering who he really is, just as Jod seems to be wondering the same thing about himself. Overall, the character's growth in this series was endearing and interesting. As such, I rank character development as 8 out of 10, or satisfactory.
I rated it the same, 8 out of 10. Last is continuity. As a whole, Skeleton Crew adds nicely to existing canon. Its use of legend and mystery harkens well to concepts from the original trilogy, as do its messages of good in the galaxy and friendship. New species are introduced, such as Niels, known as Mykian, and his classmates, known as Vizoan. And we also see our first Shistavanen in live action in the form of Brutus, as well as a host of other less-known species. As mentioned previously, however, perhaps the largest break in continuity comes from the series' inability to adequately explain how the credits made in Aden's Old Republic Mint could be of value during New Republic times, implicating even larger questions about the galaxy's economy. For this reason, I rated continuity as fair, or 6 out of 10.
And I rated it the same, 6 out of 10.
So now it's time. Let's see how Skeleton Crew scored. Like mentioned before, its general audience score was 7.1 out of 10, and scoring our initial fan execution score actually came out to be the same, giving the show an overall initial GAFFI score of 7.1 out of 10. Overall, Skeleton Crew was well liked by fans and non-fans as well. While there were a few confusions relating to continuity and the ending of the series, its sense of adventure and messages of hope and friendship with iconic new characters made it a series to be remembered. We hope you'll stay tuned for more GAFFI scoring as we rate other Star Wars material, and if you want to become a fan critic and rate GAFFI scores with us, check out the link to the application below. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.